Good afternoon. Hope everyone is doing well, having a wonderful Sunday in Alabama. We are now midway through our barnstorming tour through the March 1st Super Tuesday states. It has been an incredible journey. You know, we started just a few days ago in Nevada, we went to Minnesota, we went to Virginia, we went to Georgia, we're here in Alabama, we're going to finish up in Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma. And I got to tell you, the excitement, the enthusiasm that we're seeing in the March 1st states, in the Super Tuesday states, it's just breathtaking. What we're seeing happening all across Super Tuesday is the same thing that we're seeing happening in Iowa. It's the same thing we're seeing happening in New Hampshire and South Carolina and Nevada, which is we're seeing conservatives come together. Conservatives are uniting behind our campaign. And that is tremendously encouraging because from day one when we launched this campaign, that was the key to victory. If conservatives unite, we win. And that's happening every single day. I'm tremendously encouraged, and I'm very glad to be here in Alabama today.
Senator, on H-1B visas, in the past you favored expanding the number of those. You said later that there have been exploitations, problems with the system. Is there a point in the future, specifically the H-1B visas, where you think they could be expanded?
Listen, I support the H-1B program. As it was originally designed, the H-1B program is designed to bring in very high-skilled workers to generate jobs and economic growth. That is a good objective. But circumstances change, and in particular we've seen in recent months report after report after report of major companies abusing the H-1B program. Number one, not bringing in very high-skilled workers, bringing in mid-level to low-skilled workers, bringing in IT workers. But number two, using the program to displace American workers, firing American workers, and to add insult to injury, forcing the American workers to train their foreign replacements. That is an abuse, it is wrong, it is unacceptable, and it will stop. That's why, in the light of the abuses, I have pledged, if I'm elected president, we will impose a 180-day moratorium on the H-1B program in order to do a comprehensive investigation and audit of every company that has received them to determine if they're abusing the program. If they are abusing the program, if they're firing American workers, they will be suspended from the program, and if they violated the criminal laws, they will be prosecuted. We need to have accountability, and actually, sadly, with the H-1B program, it's an example of what we've seen of the Obama administration across the board with immigration. They refuse to enforce the laws. We need a president who will enforce the laws. It's also the reason that I've joined with Senator Jeff Sessions from here in Alabama to introduce legislation reforming the H-1B program, requiring an advanced degree requirement, putting in place anti-fraud requirements, raising the minimum salary so that you're not bringing in low-income workers, but rather the program will function as it was originally designed. We need those reforms, and as president, I intend to fight for them.
Yesterday you introduced elaborate events. What message do you have to communicate to voters about the strength of your campaign by putting on these kinds of events?
Well, these events are about the grassroots. And the heart of our campaign from day one has been the grassroots. It has been the men and women gathered here. It is the men and women all across the country on the ground. You know, if you look at the grassroots army that is coming together, that is coming together organically, it takes your breath away. We're the only campaign who has county chairmen in all 171 counties in the first 4 primary states, in Iowa, and New Hampshire, in South Carolina, and Nevada. In fact, we just announced yesterday we've opened up a college dorm in New Hampshire. We've already done that in Iowa. We did that a few weeks ago. 48 beds in Iowa that are filled with volunteers from all over the country knocking on doors. We're opening up one in New Hampshire as well, another 40 beds in New Hampshire for volunteers to go knock on the doors. But we're also the only campaign that has announced congressional district chairmen in each of the 163 congressional districts in the first 24 states leading up to March 14. Right now we have about 160,000 volunteers nationwide. That's not just supporters, those are volunteers. Those are people who have signed up to knock on doors, to make phone calls, to get on email and Facebook and Twitter. And that's the power of this campaign, is an organized, motivated, passionate army of the grassroots. In addition to that, we've got now roughly 600,000 contributions people all over the country going to tedcruz.org. That combination is all about empowering the grassroots. And as you know, the analogy that I make every day is to 1980. I think we're at a very similar moment in time. And just like in 1980, the Reagan Revolution came from the grassroots, came from the people. This campaign, we're working to do everything humanly possible to energize and mobilize the grassroots to have exactly the same sort of transformation in 2016 that America saw in 1980.
Senator,
yesterday you were
the
talking
debate
about Secretary Jeff Sessions yesterday. You also said you'd be open to having Marco Rubio and others on the stage in a Cruz administration. Can you talk about some of the names you would want to fill out the national security part of a Cruz administration?
Well, listen, as I have mentioned many times, we've got an amazing array of talented Republicans running for this nomination. It really is. It's a striking contrast with the Democrats. I think any Republican president would be a fool for the men and women on that debate stage not to comprise a substantial portion of their cabinet. We have a lot of young, talented leaders who I think every one of them has a very, very bright future in front of them of continued public service.
But can you talk about who you might put at state or at the Pentagon or be national security advisor or something like that, since that's such an important issue in this cycle?
It is premature to start rolling out cabinet appointments. I have yet to win a state first. We need to win the nomination and name a vice presidential nominee and get elected, and then I look forward to filling out the cabinet. I can tell you there are a lot of people whose advice I draw upon and rely upon. John Bolton is someone who I speak to regularly. He's someone whose foreign policy advice I think is exceptionally sound. General Mike Flynn is someone I've spent quite a bit of time with. I think he has very, very sound national security insights, and there are a great many people upon whose advice and counsel I call upon and expect to continue calling.
Last night at the debate, Hillary Clinton said that Donald Trump is playing into the hands of ISIS and they're using him as a recruiting tool. Are her concerns warranted?
Well, I'm glad somebody was watching the Democratic debate last night. I didn't see her saying that. I actually went and watched last night the opening of Star Wars, which frankly was a reality far more realistic than whatever was said at the Democratic debate. But it doesn't surprise me that Hillary Clinton is trying to find somebody to blame ISIS on, because you can see the disaster of foreign policy, the rise of radical Islamic terrorism, the rise of ISIS happened on her watch, happened under the Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton foreign policy. It is a manifest disaster. So it's not unsurprising that her natural instinct is pass the buck. Last I checked, Donald Trump was not designing the catastrophic foreign policy the last 7 years. It was Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. When they weren't busy dismissing ISIS as the junior varsity, they were toppling the government in Libya and setting the stage for radical Islamic terrorists to take over there.
Are her concerns warranted, though?
Her concerns about ISIS, look, to date, every concern...
About Donald Trump?
I have no idea what Hillary's concerns are about Donald Trump. My sense is she's right now much more concerned about Bernie Sanders. But
they're concerned that Donald Trump is playing and they are using ISIS as using Donald Trump as a recruiting tool. Is that unwarranted?
I have no idea if she's concerned about that or not. I have no idea, no indication that ISIS is doing that. But what's obvious is that Hillary is trying to shift the blame. And this is something Hillary Clinton has spent decades doing. From back when you and I were in college, Hillary Clinton was in the Washington blame game, trying to shift blame, blame somebody else. Listen, every region of the world has gotten worse under Hillary Clinton's leadership, under Barack Obama's leadership. Her foreign policy has been a disaster. So naturally, she's going to try to accuse a hotel developer in New York of being responsible for the chaos she's created. She's not going to be able to shift the blame. It is obvious her policies have not kept America safe. It is obvious her policies have undermined our friends and allies across the world. And it's obvious her policies have helped our enemies grow stronger. But the good news is all of that is going to change, and it's going to change in January 2017 when we have a new president in the White House who will stand with our friends and allies and who will stand up to our enemies. If I'm elected president, we will utterly and completely destroy ISIS. We will stop this patty cake. We will stop this political correctness. We will stop this nonsense, and we will utterly and completely destroy it.
What do you think of Star Wars?
Appreciate you.
Thoughts on
Star Wars was awesome. Although I have to say there's an image, and I'm not going to be a spoiler. But as someone who grew up, as someone who stood with his dad in line for 3 hours to see the opening of Empire Strikes Back. As someone who grew up as a kid idolizing Han Solo as perhaps the coolest character in all of cinema, I will say there's an image last night that will scar me forever. And I'm not going to spoil what it is, but it was highly traumatic.
Right. Thanks, guys.
Tribune Media is fueled by Trussville Gas and Water.